You are listening to the Firecracker Podcast with Tony Rico.
All right, good morning, everybody. It is morning time here, and we've got our good friend Brentt Eads back with us. Hi, Brent.
Hello,
Good
Tony.
morning to you. It's been a year or so?
It's been that long?
Since our last podcast? It seems like a long time.
I don't know.
Don't get you in here long enough. First of all, welcome back. We've known each other, and we've covered this before, but quite a few years. I'd say over 10 at least, right?
Yeah, probably 2006 is when I first got into
something
softball.
like that.
And you were one of the first guys I met in softball.
And I know that I asked you this before, but was that your year of introduction to softball, or how far?
Yeah, quick story. What happened, I was working with the company Student Sports.
Right.
And Nike came to them and said, we want to do a project where you do baseball, softball, and soccer. And at the time, Student Sports had a baseball website and a soccer website, but didn't have softball. My boss came to me and said, Brent, start a softball website, find events. Nike wants to put apparel, their apparel, dry fit apparel on athletes in these three sports. And I go, why do you want me to start a softball website? And he goes, well, you have a daughter that played. And I said, Andy was the boss. I said, Andy, Brittany plays at such a low level of softball that she plays club softball and club soccer at the same time. And he goes, well, still, you know more than anybody else. So that was my start. And within 6 months, I fell in love with the sport. I actually didn't like softball when I started because my daughter played. We'd go out to Riverside, it'd be 110 degrees. We had a little daughter, and she would be a right fielder, get one at bat or two at bats and strike out.
A little slow pace.
Slow pace. It was just not a fun sport. Whereas she played soccer, she'd get 30 touches and score 2 goals, and it was a lot more enjoyable. And I've told you this before, where I fell in love with softball is when I went back to the ASA championships and you guys were in it. And I saw you played what I had never really experienced at that level, which was the slap game. And I saw you destroy teams. And I saw that the defense wouldn't know, they didn't know it could come in, they didn't know rotation. And I just saw some of your slappers just carve up the defense. And I go, this is a more exciting game that I
Different way to appreciate it.
Yeah, and then I saw the higher level and what it was all about in strategy. And once you start understanding the strategy and what's going on, then you get to know it. And then I fell in love with the people.
Sure.
So
I think at some point the speed of the game, once you see it played the way it can be played by the best players and the best coaches out there doing things, my appreciation for slapping developed over a few years because I came from the baseball side and didn't have an appreciation for it. So I'm proud of my learning curve and not ashamed of my ridiculous opinions, when I first entered the culture. But there's something about this sport that pulls us in. But what I like is, and we're going to talk about your position right now with FloSports, and we'll get to kind of what's happening, what's exciting around the country. You guys have been growing and doing a lot of things, and you've been with them now 2-3 years now.
2.5 years.
2.5 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you really helped kickstart a lot of things within the company as far as softball goes. It's expanded quite a bit, right? The staff.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, but Student Sports had a softball division. Andy, the boss I referred to, was so good to me that I had done softball for a while. And they closed their media division. He said, Brent, you have some equity in the community in softball. Why don't you take everything that you've accumulated here, the photos, the videos, he said, and I will help pay to transition this information to start your own company. So I had about a year a company called Full Count Softball that I started. And that's tough, going off on your own, being an entrepreneur. But I was able to build some more traction and continue doing stuff that still exists today, like the Hot 100 lists. And I had been with ESPN, and Student Sports was owned by ESPN. ESPN had shut the doors on the high school division. But several guys that I worked with at ESPN went to FloSports, which is based in Austin. And during the time I had my own company, we were in discussions on, softball. I want to say they had 5 or 6 sports at the time. FloSports is known for the wrestling. And it was started by 2 brothers. One was a college wrestler, one was a college track guy, University of Texas. And they found that their sports were really underserved when it came to media, that there were passionate communities, just like we see in softball. And so I had built some equity, to use that word again, in softball, and we had the dialogue going on like, hey, would there be interest in softball? Would you be interested in coming and being kind of the general manager? And so 2.5 years ago in May, they acquired me, so to speak, and I've been running their softball division. And my job now, my title is, I'm a RAM, which stands for Rights Acquisition Manager. Mm-hmm. So I'll talk to events, college events, club events, USA softball, from PGF and USA softball, and dealt with Triple Crown and Triple SA on the youth side, all the way up into we streamed some NPF games this
And
year.
that percentage of growth has increased quite a bit over the last couple of years since you started this.
Yeah, we've developed a lot. We have kind of three tenets of what we do. We do the live streaming of events. We have a daily website. Ches Sievers is the editor. Ches, it's Mel's daughter. And then we do video documentaries and do a lot of supportive stuff, kind of in the 30 for 30 type of thing.
Right.
And what's great is it's what I've always loved about softball are the people, the athletes. And we tell stories. And our CEO one time said something that really struck with me. He said, we try to take athletes and build them into superstars. We try to take events and build them into Super Bowls. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're just trying to build and promote the sport and make it something that's going to be bigger and better. And I love softball. I love the people. The downside is, and this, it's fragmented in terms of there's so many organizations and so many moving parts and people on islands, and that's tough. And
Not quite as unified as we would like to be.
And I wish we were all going in the same direction, but there's a lot of positives, and it all goes down to the athlete.
It's all worth it.
It's all worth it because of the athlete and the people and the coaches like you. That's what I've worked in guys sports. I've worked probably in 30 different high school type sports, and my favorite by far is softball. And what's funny is before I got back in softball full time, I would always say in my career I've done a lot of cool things, football events, and been up to Nike's campus and did some things where I've been on sidelines of bowl games, and be it media or events and all that. But I always say my favorite thing I did was in softball because of the people. And it was just, that was the highlight of my career, and ironically, I ended up back into it, and I'm so happy I am.
I think 100% of people that are in softball know exactly what you're talking about, and almost 100% of people that haven't participated have no idea what you're talking about. But that's one of the catches of our culture. You have to be involved with it. And now there's more and more people that aren't coaching or don't have kids. I mean, they like the sport. When I first got started, quite a few years ago, you could go to a women's open tournament, and the loyal fans were the old timers that would come out to watch women's majors. I mean, so they really knew about the history going back, 30, 40 years, the Breakettes, that women's major we got to experience a few years. That was a whole other dynamic of appreciation for the history of softball, and it was played so differently back then. Shorter pitching distances, many more dominant pitchers. I can remember talking with a lady who had played quite a few years ago and said, Tony, we didn't get strikes down the middle. You didn't wait, for a good pitch. You hit what you thought what was coming. So you punched it, you poked it, you did whatever you could. And so the involvement of the game, I think now with the evolution of technology, the pitching distance backing up, making it a little harder for pitchers, it has made the game more exciting. I mean, my gosh, Brent, in the time that we've known each other, to see how the sport has grown, and right now I can't get out of my head the championship series and the way these games are being played out, and it's almost like they've been scripted. Yeah. And it's unbelievable, the big hits, the comebacks, the moments afterwards, for me, watching Patty Gasso be humble and she's so professional and so well kept, and just that moment after the championship game of her and her son and daughter-in-law, and there's just so many aspects that it's been pretty awesome to be part of it, right? And whatever aspects that we are, that I am a proud softball man. I know that you are too, and like I said, everyone that I think that will listen to this understands exactly what we're talking about. We understand our addiction, but we all live in the dysfunction too, and but that's just it's if we don't know that we've signed up for that, then I think we live in this layer where it's a little bit obvious. I was watching I think the most recent Jerry Seinfeld special that came out, and it's a compilation of him doing a stand-up routine back in New York, nowadays current, but he's talking about when he got started, and he sits in this little window ledge in New York off of Madison Avenue, and he talks about eating lunch there when he had this job down the street for $25 a day. And he'd watch the old entertainers on TV, and when he'd see him on TV, he'd say, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to be that. So then he gets on stage, and he talks about, people throwing glasses at him, flipping him off, doing these things. But he said, I never got angry at it. And I never took it personal. I'm a comedian. And so it's like an umpire. An umpire that I think takes things personal, which, we all do at times. But I mean, my gosh, what glory and how much praise do umpires really, really get? They're expected to get their job right in any little thing. And now, my gosh, what we see on TV with the sports and the instant replay and what's happened. Yeah. But, there's so many people that give to our culture in so many different aspects. And now the media is really strong. We didn't always have it like that. You were one of the few one-man shows of trying to do things back with student sports and back when we knew each other. So it's pretty exciting. And now the combination of your vision's experience with the support you have and the growth of Flow Sports and the list, I would imagine the subscriptions and everything are strong and things are going well.
Yeah, it's great to see softball. Obviously the Olympics is a huge thing that we're all looking forward to, but it's always been there, and even maybe in a quiet way. And we've talked about this before, but when I was at ESPN, I had access to the analytics and the TV ratings, and I was shocked to learn that softball, the College World Series, was the third biggest draw in the college space after maybe of all championships, after the football bowl games and the March Madness. And it would outdraw the baseball World Series, the College Baseball World Series, by 30%, by 300,000 viewers. And then we saw this year with Oklahoma and Florida, that was a 17, 18 inning game. I mean, that ESPN is astute enough to go, you know what, we're not leaving this. We're not moving this we're going to kick, I think it was the Dodgers and Nationals or some other major league game. Yeah. They moved that game.
They made the choice to stay with the softball.
So they moved the pro baseball game to let this college softball game sit, and people and I had so many people the next day go, that was the greatest game I ever saw. Yeah. What a great advertisement.
The game is delivering.
Yeah.
Right?
The game is where it should be.
Yeah.
And now we as people surrounding it, we've just got to make sure that the world knows. And again, probably my biggest frustration, Tony, in all of this is like with the MPF. We've got these fantastic athletes, and wouldn't we love to have not just the Olympics as a goal, but a pro career? If it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, that they can make some money, that they can have some influence, but also that their names are household names, the Tasha Watleys and those, those type, the Lisa Fernandezes, but more of them, and tell their story. If I can accomplish one thing in softball by the time I'm done with it, it's to make more household names of these athletes, because they're amazing people, and their
stories
journeys
are there.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate to be friends with Amanda Freed. Yeah. And Amanda and I just went to an event, and she's helped me with some projects. And, and the thing I tell everybody, Amanda probably rolls her eyes, but I'm her best PR agent. And I'll say, okay, can you tell me anybody else, Amanda, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I'm going to go off on how great you are again. Mother of two, fantastic family. But Amanda won a club national championship. She won a high school championship at Pacifica, playing for Rob Weil. Then she goes to UCLA and she wins a national championship. Then she wins a gold medal, and then she wins a pro championship. Name any other athlete that has won national championship.
And just throw in playing in Japan.
Yes, yeah. And she's amazing. And she's amazingly humble, and she's a great teacher. We were at this camp together, and she's working with the kids. That to me is softball. Amanda epitomizes, she's articulate, well-spoken, humble, and Amanda, and I've met dozens and dozens of people like that. That to me is what softball is. It's the people, the athletes are smart, articulate, they're great people off the field, they're humble, they're hardworking. I once said, kind of joking but kind of not, if I would start my own company and I would hire people, it would be female former athletes who played like at the college level or higher, because they're self-disciplined and they play for the right reasons. They play for the love of the sport.
Well, and that's good for parents to know too, that to live in the obsession of the scholarship, the recognition, the achievements, but the long-term payoff for the investment. You don't have to go into too many softball fields without being able to hear somebody, their kid's not playing well, questioning why they're spending so much money, but that investment, I'll throw this number out at you. It's above 95% the return investment, the amount of girls that are going to college. The amount that aren't going to college really aren't that many. The investment pays off. Yes, the work is tedious. It's very uncertain. It's an emotional roller coaster. You're going nuts. It doesn't always make sense. Great ones are going late. Okay ones are going early. There's all different types of things going on as far as the real value of the product, but they're all going. And the return on the investment's there. I mention this a lot when I do our seminars is, but when your daughter comes out with this established experience and she's got integrity under stress, and these values have to be taught at a grassroots level, which is why I love being down here so much. We have an opportunity to teach behaviors at times when most people are are allowing the situation around them to change how they're behaving in a negative way, but we persevere and try to push that behavior forward. And now the value in the workplace, your daughters are going to be more valued. They're going to be better prepared. They're tempered. What do you do with a horseshoe? You heat it up, you beat the hell out of it, you cool it off, and then it's durable. Well, that beating the hell out of it sometimes is a coaching style. There's a lot of coaches at the top level that are pretty hard to play for, but the players come out tougher. One of the things I'm concerned about right now is, and I mention this all the time when I talk to groups, so we go over the sticks and stones may break my bones. And if you say one wrong word that hurts my daughter's feelings, I'm going to call the assistant principal, set up a meeting, and I'm going to have you fired.
Yeah.
It's no longer words will never hurt me. And this viciousness that we have. And that's a dynamic that, everyone can point and blame, and I choose not to do that. But that's a dynamic of our culture that we've mastered division. We've allowed our obsessions to kind of, keep us from having real relationships, to a point to where I advise our coaches a lot of times, be friendly with your parents, but don't consider yourself friends. Because a lot of times one decision, one this, one that, all of a sudden the business is in our face, and then you've had your feelings hurt because you've trusted somebody or you thought it was loyalty. Those are really kind of dangerous words. All of those things have to prove themselves. I said earlier, the game is delivering. ESPN would not have made that choice if the game was not. It wouldn't have been a noble choice. Oh, you're a cute little sport, let's give them a... No, there's some bottom line things happening right now. And that's the beautiful part of it, which makes all of this worth it. And I believe, it sounds a little weird, but if we all just work together, those simple concepts, there's going to be a yin and yang, good and bad, but just keep working together. And that's what I'm excited about. There's so many great examples from the grassroots right now, which you and I deal with, but all the way up. And you're covering more college events. What do you guys have coming up this year? Are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we're looking at doing Mary Nutter both weekends. We're doing...
busy weekend for you? Busy week?
Yeah, they're 2 weeks in a row. Second weekend is a big one. I don't know the dates. I want to say February. But Deb Hartwig, Kirk Walker do a fantastic job. We'll be doing 3 events through Cal State Fullerton, the Judy Garman. And that's, let me throw out a side story there. Where I first realized there was an opportunity, I went to Judy Garman, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? And number 1, Florida was playing number 2, Oregon. And I looked around and I was the only media person there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was with...
And a beautiful venue, right?
A great venue,
right?
2 fantastic teams. And I just look around and going, this is a fantastic sport, fantastic game. Why is there not more media? So Judy Garman kind of was where it flickered to me, like, hey, there's opportunities to stream these games. They have the Easton Classic. I want to say Oklahoma is playing in that one, Nebraska. And then they have a new one called the Titan Classic, which... or Titan Invitational, which will have some schools back east like Maryland and Pitt and such. So we're doing those. I'm in discussions with some other college tournaments down in Florida. Clearwater has some. Michelle Smith has her pediatric cancer, and I'm hoping we can be part of that. We're in discussions. And then talking to a junior college tournament, and we might even be doing some Division II and Division III. My goal is just to, hey, if you play softball, I don't care if it's at a 12U or if it's at UCLA, we want to let the world know about it. We want to honor you. And if it's Division II, if it's Division III, if it's junior college. So in 2018, we have some, I think that there's a stretch of 7-8 weeks in February, March-ish, where we will have 2 college tournaments going on the same weekend.
Still kind of the pioneer days, right? There's a lot of frontiers to conquer. We had a coach put together, Manny Travieso put together a trip with American players to play in Cuba. So they pulled that trip off, and that was a first-time situation. And the experience, he was able to recruit different kids from firecracker teams to put 1 week together, and it was right a couple weeks before premiere. So it was really tough, and he got enough kids to go out there, and that experience for them, Brent. He's not known in softball for his wins or anything he's done. But he comes from the entertainment business. He's a creative guy. They're doing a great job. Our Media City Firecrackers, like a lot of our regions. But he pulled off a trip, and here I have a Cuban jersey and a Firecracker jersey signed by the Cuban players. And where in the heck, when that couldn't have happened before, And so still in the pioneer part of it, and it's pretty cool to think about that you were even in the beginning of this, because there is more and more media. I tell all of our players that most of them are going to be on TV or streaming or something when they're in college, because now that internet access is just, these kids are watching TV on their phones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they watch it as much on TV anymore. It's crazy.
Yeah, when I was at ESPN, and this was 6-7 years ago, I was surprised to learn that over 50% of media was consumed on a phone. Yeah. Not on TV, not on a laptop, but on phones. And I'm sure that number is just higher and higher. So.
Which changed the dynamics of thinking you always had to go through commercial networks and pay for, advertising this, and now the direct connects. Now we have the direct connect right to our households. Now we've got the commercials in the middle of the YouTube presentation and everything. But I get it, though, because that is direct. But it gives an opportunity for so many more people that wouldn't have had that access through networks. Now you look on Hulu, you look on Netflix, you look on all the different networks that are, it is just crazy. So if it's out there, there's a way to find it. And the amount of people, I think this is exciting for our players too, that digital media success, that social media, that these kids really have mastered in their own way. Again, I'll ask questions to our players, how many of you let your parents and coaches put pictures on your Instagram, and they just laugh. And they said, I would let them touch it. You have a kid taking a picture with me, and she gives the mom or dad the phone, and if that mom or dad doesn't take the picture right in 5 seconds, the kid gets all impatient with them, because these kids have mastered their phone. So I think it's a really interesting age, which is why we do these podcasts too. Really wanted to catch up with you and see what was going on. And I wanted to start off our conversation, and we'll just touch upon it quick, but just congratulations quick on your personal life. You've just headed off and got married, and things are going great, and I'm very happy for you, Brent.
Thank you.
There's a I think time proves relationships, and so I think when you've known someone 5 years in softball is like 10 years in softball is like 20, but there's a group of good people that I believe if we continue to work together, a message I always have for organizations, everything else, let's compete with each other on the field. We don't need to badmouth each other. If you need to badmouth somebody to get a player or this or that, it's just rethink it, because the examples that we're setting and right now, I'm hoping that someday we can get the type of sponsorship to that understands that you're going to look good. I tell you, if you and I had $1 billion, would we not put our name on logos all over these kids and build schools and be proud of it and be proud of that partnership? I mean, there's a delivery and a beauty to the sport that just looks good right now, and I think that's still undiscovered by the type of, I don't know, is it corporation, politician, single media figure that can look good politically, but also invest their money, because think about who's running our teams. Volunteers. So ex-players, dads that came out of the stands because their kid needed a coach, and so they volunteer their time, and yet we're coaches now at all levels, even when they're trained and experienced at the college level, they're paying dear prices for bad decisions, personal decisions, all types of things. So what is really qualified? Because I think we have to be really careful on the standards we're expecting people. It's almost like we're expecting them to never make mistakes, and when they do, we're going to hang them. And so whether it's financial, or like I said, a personal decision or whatever, there seems to be very little forgiveness, and there seems to be quick, swift justice. And if we're gonna 86 everybody the first time they make a horrible mistake, what do we have left? Let's go back and start educating and start training, because there's a lot of things that someone that's going to run a team right now. I tell people I'm a 6-year freshman business student. For our time of expansion, I don't feel any more qualified than a freshman in college with all of the business aspects that I'm learning and my responsibilities to the people that we're leading right now. And that's just me. We all have a lot to learn. It's interesting to me that a lot of softball coaches don't pull in their professional experience into their coaching operation. They take on a coaching persona, and it's usually destructive, emotional, tenuous relationships, reactive. And yet here they are, a manager for a big corporation for the last 27 years, and they deal with confrontation daily. But softball brings us out, whether it's an umpire not giving us a call at 8:01 in the morning or whatever it is. And I just think if we reverse that, we go back and we start with behavior just like they do in the military, just like they do in police academy, I think we're going to have a lot more success. But we're really asking a lot of people to do things that they're not really qualified for. We still have a responsibility as coaches, but we need to coach coaches, and we need the right type of leadership. And even if it's just accepting the responsibility And all of us just getting a little bit better. If I didn't do this because all the reasons I'm not qualified, heck, I would never have done this. There's still a million things I need to learn, but heck.
Well, my experience is, you touched up on it earlier. Many of these coaches are in it not because their daughters, or maybe at one point their daughters played, but they stick around because they, I asked, Gary Hanning, who's been in it, 30 years, and I said, Gary, why are you still coaching? What do you have left to prove? And he goes, I love teaching these girls because they listen and they'll let me teach them, and they're, and I'm sure you feel that way. These are athletes that, for the most part, that I see, certainly at our level, they soak up. They want to be part of learning, and they're doing it because they love the sport, not because they're trying to get a pro contract or because they're trying to, make money and maybe
you really have a passion for playing.
Yes.
I enjoy working with the coaches and the parents because they don't get much attention. They get reaction. They're part of the dynamic, but there's not a lot of guidance. So, last thing I wanted to ask you about, a little bit off topic because we talked plenty about softball. A couple things. Just real quick, you watching the playoffs right now?
Yeah, somewhat. When I have time.
Did you see the Justin Turner home run?
Yes.
Just moments like that in pro sports. They're set up. Did you hear anything about this guy that caught the ball in the outfield? So there's one guy goes out in center field. So big dramatic home run on the day that Kirk Gibson, 29 years later, that Kirk Gibson hit his home run. We have an alumni here that is a player developer, Melissa Roth, and that's also her birthday. Yeah. So she tells her parent or her kids that day that this is a day that heroes were made and legends were born, because that's her birthday, is the same day as the Kirk Gibson and the Justin Turner home run. Wow. So there's a guy that runs out in center field and he snacks the ball by himself. And he catches it, turns around, and you just think, man, what this glorious moment. There's an article on, it might have been ESPN, that he has caught 18 home run balls in 2 years. He studies the analytics of where guys hit the ball. So before he goes to a Dodger, he's got season tickets, and he knows where the guys hit the ball. So he hangs out in the area where they tend to hit it. Yeah. He's caught a couple of Bellingers. 1 year ago, he caught Justin Turner's home run in the playoffs. And before this last home run, he tells his son that would be really cool if he hits another one out here and we catch it 1 year later, and he caught it. So all of a sudden now there's this really deep story to this guy that just caught a ball. You thought it was a once in a lifetime thing, and there's this whole other thing. And in analytics, we use them with the internet to kind of study our websites and things, but that's a big part of a huge part of baseball now, becoming bigger and bigger part of softball. So I know you guys don't deal a ton with that, but I'm watching the sport grow in all different directions, and it's just been a lot of fun. I know this question comes from our parents and coaches, and because there is such an interest in your top 100, 200 lists and everything that's going on, and they've really developed a strong interest. What's the best way? What advice do you have for people and coaches? Best way to be seen, to be noticed, I don't think the obvious is to be with certain organizations. What advice do you give them? Because there is such an obsession and there's such a weight put on all this. So what advice do you give them on
Well, first,
getting into the mix?
Address the check to Brentt Eads, daughter's college scholar. No, but you know what? You just passed over something that I think is important, and it is organization many times. We get this question at camps, like my daughter plays. We were back on the East Coast at a camp, and I was speaking. Amanda Freed and I were speaking and talk on the topic of recruiting, and it came up: should we play, at a higher profile organization? And we said, well, if you're going to play with an organization like the Firecrackers, they're going to play at high profile, high prestige events. You're going to get seen more, and it's a tough thing to say, but if you want to play with the best and be the best, that does carry some weight. And if
most of your network with coaches, do you get a lot of emails from parents? Do you get a lot of?
Yeah.
You have to filter through a lot of different types of communication. So where are your most reliable sources?
Believe it or not, and this is my secret sauce. It's you. It's club coaches. We talk to college coaches, and obviously they can't talk on the record. In scouts and such, and we see a lot of players. We stream a lot, so we see a lot, and we have a lot of people that kind of provide feedback. Yes, we get a lot of stuff from parents. And I would say, your question was, how can parents and players get seen? Don't feel hesitant in sending us information. Just say, hey, my daughter has done this. Don't give me a 3-page history and resume, but to say, okay, she plays for this organization. We've played at these events. She's done this. Here are her honors and accomplishments. She's in recruiting.
More like a heads up.
It's heads up.
Yeah.
Let us know. And also,
because you are marketing your kids too. So if you overmarket,
It
you
is.
overdo it. Nobody likes to open up an email and I call it a 5-swiper. With your finger on your
Yeah.
phone, and it's
Oh.
like there it is, and you want to go to the bottom of it just to see how long it is, and so what you're doing is you're losing your effectiveness.
Please use paragraph breaks too. I don't want to do 5 swipes and it's all one
Right.
paragraph. But just give it the highlights. We've talked about this. If you're going to approach a college, and an athlete approach a college, parent don't write it for them because even as college coaches don't want the parents. They want to see the kid step up and be involved.
Yeah.
Nothing
Plus,
rings.
it's good experience for them.
It's good experience. Nothing rings more true than when I get an email from a kid that says, "Mr. Eads, my name is so and so, and I just wanted to make you aware of myself, and I've done this, and I played for this organization, and my goals are this, and I'm being recruited or looking at, or I'm going to these camps." I love that. I love when a kid takes initiative. I want to. It's like if we're hiring managers, and we have a stack of 200 resumes for one job, and someone calls and is persistent but very polite and just says, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm really interested in your job and I like it," and they show they know about the job, and you tend to move that resume to the top and consider them more seriously. So that helps. That's something you can do. I'm surprised more people don't reach out to us. But the other thing, the most important thing I would say is work with your club coach. Club coach is there to help you get better, develop, and be promoted. And we will go to club coaches across the country. If it's a Rhode Island Thunder or the PA Chaos or the Gold Coast Hurricanes or the Explosion or wherever. And I figured out, Tony, one time I probably talked to between 100 and 125 club coaches when I'm putting together one list. It's a 60-hour project. Most of that's 40 hours is research. And it's just, and I listen, the secret sauce is, I'm not saying that this is brain surgery, but what it is, it's just trying to talk to as many people, see as many athletes, compare notes, and again, how do you compare a shortstop in North Dakota to a utility player in North Carolina? This isn't a science, but what it all comes down to this. If you want to be considered, play for a good organization, do your best, promote yourself, let us know, but let your club coach know, that you will want to be considered, and the good club coaches that, I've done this long enough, I have relationships with people like you, I know and trust, and just try to get out there, and let us know, if you're going to camps or colleges are recruiting you that ways, let us know what events you play. If you play at some of the bigger events, that carries, and how you did. If you bat 600 at a PGF Nationals, it's going to be more impressive than if you batted 400 for a high school that's, like a private school that's very small, and no offense, North Dakota, but so it's again, there's no exact science, but it's talking to as many people, and the great thing about it is people like you and other club coaches, they want to promote their athletes, they want to get their name out. And last thing I'll say on this, I've been very, very pleasantly surprised how the club coaches are very realistic on evaluating their athletes. I talked to a club coach this morning, and he's very high profile, and he'll have athletes we're working on the 2018 Hot 100, which will start in about a week. And he said, "Brent, this girl should be in your top 10. This girl, she didn't work hard over the last year. She should probably be dropped lower. This girl should be here." Club coaches are very realistic and honest.
That's good to hear.
Because if
It's
not,
their credibility.
it's their credibility. It makes
The
them
year
look
goes
better.
by real fast, so there you are next year.
I had a coach from, I won't say where, but it was a southern state one time ago. "I've got like 8 or 9 Hot 100 players." And I go, "No, you don't." If you're the Firecrackers or the Bat Busters or some of these organizations, we're seeing some programs down the south that are cranking out athletes into the SEC local schools. But yeah, you might have 4 or 5, 6. But let's be realistic. You're not going to have 8 or 9 unless you're the national champion like you guys were last year. Mike Stith develops, and so it's a case of knowing who is honest with their kids and evaluating. So for me, my first stop and my main stop is the club coach. And one other reason why you get this is I'm not just looking at how good of a physical athlete. I'm looking at how you are off the field. I'm looking at, I've had college coaches tell me, well, one thing we liked about her, we like her family. We like how she carries herself. We like how she deals
in the community, what she's doing personally.
Character. character. And the one thing that's been interesting, having worked in boys sports versus girls sports, especially softball, is and this is a generalization, a stereotype, and I'm sure it's not 100% accurate, but in boys sports, they'll take someone who is a head case or cancer or a malcontent, and if he's got the talent, can help the team win.
340.
They'll work around it.
Right.
You very rarely see that in softball, and a lot of times what happens is the other players will kind of moderate and kind of make the player like either shape up or ship out. And that's what I like about softball is you don't find too many cancers in dugouts.
I like to train our softball players to tell the difference between a guy running a 4.40 that's going to raise their kids right and a guy that's running a 4.3 that's not going to treat them very well. Yeah. So it's a little bit in the long run. It's a little bit trickier, but a better payoff. Where would they write? Is there an address? Is there an email address? Is there a?
Yeah, write to me. I mean, my email. Okay, here we go. No, it's just
I don't know if there's a general one that they should go to because I think we all have to try to have personal buffers and things. But this is part of your business. Can they find something on the website?
I think it's FloSoftball at FloSports.tv.
Okay.
If that doesn't work, just send it to me. It's Brent Brent .Eads EADS at FloSports.tv. And you can find, just search around on our website. You'll see it.
And if you got that information on this particular podcast, then you also understand the importance of your integrity. So use it wisely when we give you this information because, I feel fortunate. I'm going to throw myself under the bus to our organization. This may or may not be true, but I feel like I underrepresent. We try to keep humility and everything so strong that it's not about pushing things out. Something I would say to coaches out there, if you've had kids that you know have done well and have performed at the college level, and you have some statistics that prove that they've went through your program and you have a body of work, don't be afraid to present that to Brent as well too, because say, hey, I might have reached out to you a couple years ago and now this particular kid, look how she's done. So that may lend you credibility in the future as well. It's not that you have to wait in line or there's this pecking order, but you have to penetrate and develop your credibility. And so the best way to do it as a coach is with a body of work. And when you have a body of work, and so I think that's why I remain relatively quiet about us because our body of work is very strong. It's very important for a lot of organizations to put that out there because that's where you're getting your reputation. Yeah. So I think that's important to remember as well.
And you have some great coaches, like Sean Brashear, TJ Hushmanzada, even across the country, firecracker coaches reach out to me, and I know that they have a solid body of work and I can trust them.
Randy Kay in Arizona has done a great job down there with Firecrackers AZ. And so I'm really proud of that too. I mean, we've been knocked off by a couple of our teams. I'm proud of the parity because that's what we're always working towards. So, Brent, thanks a lot. Time goes by fast. I thought this was going to keep it short. We're almost at an hour or close to that.
Wow,
but,
did it go that fast?
Time flies. But appreciate you stopping in, and you've got some good information out there, people. So I hope it's helpful for you. And congratulations again to you on your marriage. And
thank you.
Looking great and everything. And we'll be talking to you sometime soon.
And we'll see you on the field.
Thank you.